Hey, Lucas, Mark Grody with the Score and WBBM in Chicago, and welcome to Chicago.
Thank you very much, Mark.
Yep. And what are some specific ways that you will best utilize Justin Fields in order to maximize his skills?
Well, that's a process. I don't think there's a specific answer to that, to be honest with you. I think, this is going to take time. We're going to have to get to know each other. And then through that process, the focus will be on that, finding out, dialing into what he does best, and then matching that with the other 10 guys on the field and what they do best. But definitely not a direct answer to that one right now.
Next question, Herb Howard.
Coach, I'm Herb Howard with the Bigs Media. Welcome to Chicago. Coach, the previous regime came from, like yourself, they came from a prolific offense that featured some of the very best players at their respective positions. Obviously, you don't have Aaron Rodgers, Devontae Adams. I'm curious, how will you kind of balance, trying to get your system up and running as quickly as you can with the actual personnel that you have here, understanding that it's not necessarily the same at this moment from where you're coming?
Yeah, I think, again, the important thing that we're going to, and Herb, thank you, appreciate that, man. The important thing that we're going to have to do at the beginning of this is establish a culture, establish a philosophy. That's the important part first. And once we get everybody in that mindset, then we can grow and build to be exactly who we want to be. We'll create that identity as we go through this off season. But we got to establish that culture. We got to establish that philosophy and make sure that we're all on the same page moving forward. And then once we dial into the specific people, the personnel, then we'll dial into exactly what we want to be good at.
Next question, Dan Reeder.
Hey, Luke, Dan Reeder from the Chicago Tribune. Good to see you.
Thanks, Dan.
In 2019, you guys obviously faced a task when Matt got to Green Bay in trying to unite a vision between the coaching staff and Aaron. I'm curious what you learned in that process, obviously having a unique vantage point of having been in Green Bay previously, from the give and take between Matt and Aaron that will help you, in this first time as a coordinator to try to go through some of the similar give and take.
Yeah, I mean, throughout my entire coaching journey, the importance of the relationship with your player has just been more evident, and the importance of it is so critical to the success of the football team. And you give one specific example with Matt and Aaron. But to me, it's even deeper. It's with everybody. So we will definitely, that'll be an important part of who we are as a coaching staff. As we're evaluating who's going to be on the offensive staff and who's not. I mean, the most critical aspect was to make sure we were getting the right person or type of people in this building, that we can develop those relationships and then have that spill over to the players. And then if we can get the players and coaches to be in that harmony, we're going to have something special.
As an extension of that, when you're uniting a vision with a young quarterback who's really only had 10 or 12 starts of experience in the league, what are the keys to kind of figuring out what he knows and what he doesn't know, and kind of bringing yourself to a middle ground as quickly as possible?
Well, there's not a specific key. Again, this is like we have to dial into each other. Once and you're given one specific example, but once the coach and the player can dive into the people. And we can start to build that trust and that passion for each other. And we know that we have the same common goal. We're going to be able to take this thing in the direction that we need to. It's important with any player, young, old, whatever. Like, you have to dive into that relationship if you want to have any kind of success. So again, just because he's young or whatever, it's about getting to know the person and what drives them, their styles of learning. All that stuff is going to be critical that we dive into once we get together.
Next question, Kevin Fishbane.
Hey, Luke, Kevin Fishbane from The Athletic. When you think about your philosophy and your vision for an offense, what are obviously you've been around a lot of coaches. I'm sure you have a lot of aspects and concepts you like, but what are some of the things specific to you that is like the Luke Getsy kind of philosophy for what you want to see in an offense?
Well, thanks, Kevin. I've kind of alluded to that already, and we talked about the type of people and the mindset and the relationship. That's the first thing that's going to be important to us. The beginning of this thing, when we try to establish that identity, or, we're going to establish the culture first, but then we're going to dive into this identity, right? That's going to be driven by the personnel, the coaching staff, and we're going to become something. There's not one specific answer to that right now. We have to dive into what everybody does best, right? And it starts with the quarterback, right? This is a quarterback-driven offense. So the things that the quarterback position does well, that's going to be the driver of who we are. And then we're going to marry that to what the other guys on the football field do well. I mean, that's the purpose of the offense coordinator, right? To dive into what the people do well, what they do best, and then build the offense around that.
Next question, Adam Hogue.
Hey, Luke, can you give us an idea of how important the play calling aspect of this move in your career was? And if you don't mind, can you kind of run through what your play calling experience is, whether I think that would have been at the college level, but can you just kind of give us an idea of that?
Yeah, I mean, I'm assuming you're talking about, furthering your career, what play calling would do. Is that what you're alluding to right there?
Yeah, and just the opportunity to, obviously you were working under an offensive coordinator
Sure.
and Matt LaFleur in Green Bay, and now you're got a defensive head coach here, and this offense is
Sure.
you're looking at, yeah.
Yeah, no, thanks, Adam. No, listen, the passion that I have for this game and the passion to take the reins was something that is just, it's deep inside me. I think, playing the quarterback position growing up and having that, being, the leader of the offense, playing it through college, and then getting a couple opportunities, like you said, in the college level to take the reins of an offense and be the play caller. All of that stuff is just in me. It's what I love. It's the passion. And these last couple of years, Matt's been great up, and Coach LaFleur has been great in giving us opportunities to do that in the preseason. And so, like, those are just things. Once you touch it, man, you're just like, this is the passion that I have. It's not just whatever it can become after it. It really isn't. This is just the passion that I have to be able to have an opportunity to lead men and help guide this thing and be a part of something. I really don't view this thing as just going to be Luke Getsy's offense. It's what was mentioned before. This really isn't going to be that. Okay, this is going to be a collective group doing this together. That we're going to build something that's going to be our own. And so I just have a passion for being involved in that. I really do. And so I'm super excited about this opportunity, the group of men that we got together in this coaching staff. I mean, these men, they all bought into that. Like I laid it out for these guys on this offensive staff that this is the mindset that we want to have, that we want this thing to be ours. This isn't going to be somebody else's or a copycat of somebody else. This is going to be ours. Like, we all have our experiences, and we're going to put them together, and we're going to build this thing together.
Next question, Jesse.
Hey, Luke, Jesse Rogers, ESPN. It's almost a different version of the same question, but offense is such a hot topic in this town. Are you saying you're basically going to create this offense, create this playbook after getting to know Justin, after getting to know the personnel? Is that what you're saying? It's all going to be together?
Well, I don't. When you use the word playbook, okay, I just have probably a different mindset of what that means, than what you guys are trying to portray as the playbook. Again, we're going to establish a culture. We're going to have an offensive philosophy, that we're going to have an approach that we're going to attack these guys and teach them conceptually to start. Okay, and so then once you teach them conceptually, now you get the players in and you start diving into what each guy does well, and then that kind of takes the path. I mean, if you look at previous experiences that I've had, you would see that the offenses change and evolve as you go through different years. It's not like you run the same football plays every single year, or from even one game to the next. You're going to evolve, and if you have these set of players playing in this game, and in the next game those players are injured, you can't do the same thing. So it's all about tapping into what those the specific position groups do best. And so when you say the word playbook, yes, there's going to be conceptual learning that's going to happen, that we're going to put together. And then as we get into the players and we get to know them, they get to know us, we figure out what we do well, then we'll start diving into more specifically, as you would say, playbook type of plays.
Next question, Matt Zahn.
Hey, Luke, Matt Zahn from CBS2 here. Obviously having Aaron Rodgers at quarterback is going to help any offense, but, his numbers were clearly better the last couple of seasons. What is it about your scheme you think that makes life maybe easier for the quarterback, and how can that translate to Justin Fields?
Well, again, the systems that I've been a part of, and specifically these last 3 years too, these are quarterback driven systems, right? So everything is about that, tapping into that position and building the offense around it. And so when you have somebody that has, a Hall of Fame type player, you're tapping into some really good things, right? And so it's going to be the same thing that here, we're going to build this thing around this quarterback position. And so, obviously when you have that level, you're going to be able to do a few more things. But again, it was a process. It wasn't like we just came in and threw stuff at him and he just did it. So that was a process of putting it, laying it down conceptually, philosophically, and then as we grew together, we were able to build something pretty special.
Next question, Pat Finley.
Hey, Luke, Patrick Finley from the Chicago Sun-Times. At the risk of asking a straightforward question, what did you learn from Aaron Rodgers, and what did Aaron Rodgers learn from you, do you think?
That is hopefully a lot there. That's a pretty deep question right there. So thanks, Patrick. Yeah, no, listen, again, I'm going to revert back to what I started with at the beginning of this thing. What I learned when I first got to meet him and Alex Van Pelt and got in that quarterback room with Tom Clements back in 2014, I got to sit in a room and see the importance of diving in and connecting with player to coach. And so that relationship and being able to find different ways to teach people to whatever style that they like, to be able to dive in and get the best out of somebody. So I was able to witness that as soon as I got there from really good football coaches and obviously really good football players. And so then I've really, that year was a critical year for me and learning that. And hopefully I've been able to, do that with for myself as I've been in different receiver rooms, offense coordinator rooms, and back to the quarterback room.
Next question, Deion Miller.
Hi, Coach. Deion Miller from ABC7. I know you don't know Justin that well personally yet, and you still have to get to know him, but from what you've seen on tape, what you've seen in any evaluations of him, can you kind of just give us your evaluation of his talent and what he brings to the position?
Well, I'm just going to reflect more on what I can actually have concrete. And that's, I got an opportunity to interview him during the combine stuff last year, that process. Super impressed with the man, the person. You can feel the determination, the will inside of him as he was communicating to me. He was super sharp with what they did at Ohio State. And then just a brief conversation that we were able to have together here the other day, the same exact thing just jumped back out at me again. So I'm looking forward to getting to know him deeper, obviously, but I'm very optimistic about the type of person that he is. And I think the will and the desire that he wants to be a great leader too. So I think it's a really cool opportunity with a young guy who I think has a really good drive.
Next question, Nick Moriano.
Hey, Luke, Nicholas Moriano from the Chicago Audible. Along with working with Aaron Rodgers, you also had the opportunity to work with a young QB and Jordan Love. How can that experience help you as you transition here with the Bears and Justin Fields?
No, it was a great experience. Again, being a football coach, you cannot coach every single player the exact same way. And that's why we're paid to do what we do. It's to be able to dive in and dial in and connect with different people in different ways. So no, yeah, absolutely. It's not just him. It was Tim Boyles, it was Kurt Bankerts, it's all those guys. You have to tap into each guy in their own way. And so having an experience, having that opportunity to have someone fresh and new in a COVID year, having to be creative in the way that you even teach, and get to connect with these guys was a challenge. And so all things that definitely I'm going to lean on those experiences for sure.
Next question, Hub.
Hi, Luke. Hub Arkish from Pro Football Weekly and Shaw Media. Welcome to town.
Thank you.
I know you've been clear that this is going to be your Chicago Bears offense, but this Kyle Shanahan, Sean McVay, now Matt LaFleur coaching tree, it's suddenly taken roots all across the league, mainly because of the offense. But you had your first 4 years with Mike McCarthy and then the last 3 under Matt. So how do we explain to our readers what's different about this, let's call it LaFleur offensive scheme?
In respect to McCarthy, or
Yeah,
is that what
well,
is that what
I'm
you're-
just saying, really in respect to other schemes around the league, but just your experience with Mike and with
Yeah.
Matt.
No, again, there's a lot of similar principles. I think that was an ease in the transition. I think, the West Coast style system that's quarterback driven, that remained the same. I mean, from the time that I got there, like you said, in 14 all the way through this past year, the emphasis has been around that position and building the thing through that the quarterback position. I think that, the biggest thing again that just attracted me to that opportunity to work with Matt was, one, the teaching style, and then the emphasis of committing to the run game, letting the run game drive the play pass game, and then building everything around that. And I think, we'll be a similar type approach like that, where we're going to let one thing drive the next. It's all about protecting the quarterback. Everything's about the quarterback, right? So if you can run the ball and then you can play pass, you're going to have an opportunity to protect your quarterback. And so the emphasis of that at the beginning of getting to be there at the beginning of it when we put it together back in 19, I think those are all big opportunities for me to lean on.
So just real quick follow-up, is it fair to say that the quarterback's best friend is a great running game?
I mean, sure, I guess so. Being protected in the run game, those are all things you can lean on. You talk about take a breath play. There's the playing the position is as strenuous and as tough a position in all sports. And so when you're able to kind of take a breath on a play here and there and move on to the next play, yeah, sure. But we're not going to just run the ball just to run the ball. We're going to find the best way to attack whoever we're playing against. But like I said, when we're building this thing, that'll just be the starting point.
Okay, a few more. Next question, Chris Emma.
Hey, Luke, Chris Emma with The Score here in Chicago. Matt was hired on a Thursday. You were hired on that Saturday. What was the time in between like from your perspective? And what did you do to relay confidence in him that you could handle this role as the Bears' new offensive coordinator for a defensive head coach?
I don't know if there was anything in specifically that was that. Listen, I'm an open and honest person. I'm very specific in who I want to be and the kind of people that I want to be around. And I think as he and I kind of just laid out philosophically who we wanted to be, we were aligned. And so I think it just all made sense. And so that process was a pretty smooth process. And fortunately for me, it all worked out.
Next question, Cheryl.
Hi, this is Cheryl Raysdale, WBEZ Radio. I want to ask you something that's a little bit different. Because you're with Green Bay and because you got to see game film of the Bears defense, have you been able to help Matt figure out some of the roster situations he has with the players right now on defense?
Well, I mean, you're talking about a bigger picture thing that Ryan and Matt, that's their deal. But I will be here, if they need me to lean on. Obviously, being in this division, not just for the people that were here in Chicago, I'll have a pretty good perspective on the entire division. So yes, I'll be here for them, but that's the path that they go down. That's their responsibility. So I'll let those guys do that, and I'll just be there for them if they need anything or they need to throw anything at me.
Last question, Dan Reeder.
Hey, Luke, we're going to ask you a lot about the quarterback, obviously, as you've seen today, but I'm curious about your early days in Green Bay and working with Devontae and being sort of on the ground level with him and watching his emergence. What some of the lasting impressions were for you about the way that he took his career arc and how that experience helps you as a coach going forward?
Yeah, no, it was, again, Devontae and I have a very special relationship. I got to be there with him as he was drafted. I got there the same year he got drafted. I transitioned to coach the receiver room 2 years later, kind of in a transition point for him in his career. And so we were able to kind of enjoy that success together. But it was the thing that stands out about him more than anything is just his commitment, passion, and drive for this game was relentless. And there was nothing that was going to get in his way. Like, we knew that he had the talent. But once he was able to put kind of all his thought processes and approaches together, I mean, and he's just taking it from there. I mean, so again, just the drive, the will, the passion, and then how infectious that was to everybody around him that just wanted to match that. I think this is what I'll always take away from him.